All right, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to talk about the sales process. I know a lot of you out there have done some sales or have been through some sales training or just thrown right into the mix of, hey, good luck, figure this out, and kind of go from there. So today I want to talk about kind of setting up your sales process. Not everybody should have the same words that they say, in my opinion. You should figure out how you explain it, how it makes sense to you so that you can explain it to a customer and then kind of see where you're coming from. So today I'm going to go over a bunch of stuff that will help you develop your sales process to make it stronger, things to think about in the shop that'll help make your sales process stronger and really get you to the bigger tickets, because I truly believe that most customers get rid of their cars prematurely because they don't have a mechanic that they can trust that says, look, we're going to put a plan together. If we do these items, we take care of these things, we should be able to keep this car for a lot longer, and it's going to be much cheaper in the long run to keep this car versus buying another car or even a third car in some situations, depending on how long they keep that car in the first place. So let's go ahead and get started. First, when you bring the customer in, you've got to set yourself up for success. A lot of shops will rush this step or not take it seriously or not ask enough questions. And this, a lot of times, will set you up for failure. So the first thing that's most important is that you meet and greet with the customer, whether you do it on the phone, if you know that they're going to night drop it, if you have questions about certain items about the vehicle, then you should do that on the phone before you hang up with them, okay? There are some shops that have questionnaires for a check engine light or a noise that the customer would fill out, or they could fill it out for them when they talk to them on the phone. But remember that most of the times that they are going to call you, they are going to be frustrated. They're going to be stressed out. And your job is to really be friendly and helpful and help them solve their problem. You might not be the best shop for their problem, but it's always helpful to listen to what they have to say and then try to help guide them from there. Just doing this on a day-to-day basis is going to really get your name out there for being a good shop. You don't have to solve everyone's problems, but explain to them what their steps are, or if I was in the situation, what would I do, right, in this situation, okay? So also explain the steps that are about to happen, right? Hey, we're going to get your keys when we get here in the morning because you're doing a night drop. Then we're going to go ahead and perform a courtesy inspection on the vehicle, find out what's going on with this issue. We're going to give you a call, and then we'll go from there, right? Set the expectation so they know what's going on. Nowadays, people don't fix their cars anymore. It's very, very rare, especially on the more common stuff like check engine lights or runnability issues or suspension noises. You'll have some people, but you can stay plenty busy with people that are not going to fix the car themselves. In that case, they are either going to pick to do business with you or the guy down the street. Realistically, your job is to be better on the phone and better at their customer service than the other guy, right? There are going to be some people who are just not your customer, but remember, they are interviewing you when they talk to you. They're choosing to either come back or not come back, right? Nothing is going to happen without a sale. Somebody is spending some money somewhere to get this job done, right? That's why in some cases, it's cheaper to do a pad slap on a car, but we all know that that's not going to make that car last, right? So we'll talk about that here in a second. What you really want to focus on is becoming the shop that can say yes. Of course, there's certain things that you should say no to, but being that shop that says, yes, we can get it in. It might be a week from now, but when we get it in, we are going to take it serious. And these are the things that we're going to do to make sure the car gets fixed right the first time, right? People don't mind waiting if they know that it's going to get done properly, right? They understand how the system works like everything else, but you have to be able to explain that. So, quick reminder about communication. What you're trying to do is to get them to understand what you want them to understand. A lot of times we say something and we think that they're going to understand what we hear, what we say, but they're really not receiving it and understanding what we want them to receive and understand. Good example is 4/32 of an inch. Right? You tell a customer this, they have no idea what you're talking about. Most people in the industry don't even know what a 32nd of an inch is. Okay. So figure out a way in percentages that you can explain this, right? Figure out a way that explains to the customer. It makes sense, right? Play is a common one. We say that suspension has play in it, right? How would you explain that to the customer to where they actually understand what you mean? This part has movement and it shouldn't. This is a sign that it needs to be replaced before it causes a bigger issue, right? Diag, right? We talk about book time. They don't understand any of this, right? Old, this part got old. If you're telling a customer it's because a part is old, the first thing in their brain is going to say, the whole car's old. Is it time to get rid of it? Right? And this is why we have to kind of clean up how we say things so that we can really get them to understand what we want them to, right? Is it just an oil change? No, it's not. None of you do just an oil change. You're checking over the car while it's there. You're topping off the tires. It's not just an oil change. You're servicing the vehicle for the next 6-month period, okay? Now, that being said, most visits you guys are going to see is going to be between 4 and 6 months, depending on how often they drive and what oil change frequency you're doing, okay? What you have to understand is that you are like going to the doctor. You are checking over things just like the doctor is. But if we don't explain that to the customer, right? Let's say I go to the doctor and they weigh me, they check my blood pressure, and they do all this stuff, and they don't tell me anything, and I leave and I go, I guess everything's okay, right? So the difference is having some kind of assessment or paperwork or checklist or digital inspection that not only keeps you from forgetting to check something, it holds you accountable with the customer, and it shows them that you're taking it serious because now they see how much work you did. Before, it's just, oh, the car got done in an hour, I don't really know what we did. They didn't know that we had 2 guys rushing to get it done because we do check all these other items, right? So we have to have time to be able to do that and time to be able to do it right. Explain to them that you're going to do your 33-point inspection. One thing about this that I want to make sure you understand is people in this industry love to say, we're going to check everything. We're going to check everything. That's not the case. You don't check everything. You check certain items, right? So this is a good, quick way to show them what those items are. If you're doing it digital now, what I would recommend is make a really good one with good pictures and all the text and everything, print it out and laminate it, keep it at the counter, and show them when they come in so they can see it and they get excited about it. Your goal is to get them leaving going, man, I want to get that because I want to know what's going on with my vehicle, right? Next is being honest. So you can't, I've been in so many shops and I've worked in these shops at one point that I would hear this all the time. You can't give them a big bill all at once or we'll scare them away. But what if the car needs it? Right? And that's the difference, because what happens is you do half of it and then you have to do half of it the next visit or 2 visits or something breaks down, right? It's easier to tell them, look, we're going to look everything over. We're going to go over this sheet with you. And anything that we see, we're going to tell you 100% of the time because it's your car and you need to know what's going on to make an educated decision, right? Lastly, I always bring up the warranty. If you're an independent shop, you're usually triple the warranty of a dealership, which is a great selling feature for your stuff, right? But always bring up the warranty. Our 3-year, 30,000-mile nationwide warranty covers everything that we do. You'll be amazed at how many people move around nowadays for jobs, and that is a big concern of theirs is, oh, well, if I move, what am I going to do if the car needs something, right? When you start bringing this stuff up, it's amazing how many people will say, wow, I didn't know that, right? So when you present the inspection, the first thing is you need to get them to take it seriously. When I call them, I love to say, do you have a minute to go over your inspection? Because I want them to commit to doing it so we can go over it once, they can take it serious. Because we did this health check on their car, we need them to take it seriously. When we do that, we want to go over what is good. Okay, and then what is needed. What happens a lot is we call them and say, it needs this, 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 and this. It's $3,000. What do you want to do? And their first thought is, oh my God, like I wasn't planning for any of this. I don't know what to do. Is it time to buy a new car, right? A lot of this is because we never talk to them about the good. That's also why a lot of times they'll tell you, I feel like every time I come in here, all I'm doing is spending money, because you're never telling them about the good stuff when the car doesn't need anything, right? So I'm a big believer if you're doing pictures to have good and bad pictures. What I would focus on is taking pictures of the same components every time, good or bad. Brakes, tires, air filters, wiper blades, state inspection stickers, whatever the case may be, so that they see these items wearing, right? And they saw it from last time and now they see it this time. It's not just, here's a bunch of pictures that we sent you because we're trying to sell you something. We have to make the inspection real before we use it to make recommendations, okay? The second thing I would recommend is stop guessing and start testing fluids and testing batteries and other items on the cars, okay? Figure out a drip. When is a drip, a seep, or a leak? Figure that out as a team. Take some pictures, right? So we can all get on the same page and say, when the coolant is as at 6.5, it's acidic, and we're recommending it. And the whole team can be on board with that, okay? What you'll start to learn as you do this is it kind of starts to break down into visits, okay? If you're only seeing them twice a year, this is kind of the framework that you would see them in. And I know from my experience that you're going to see roughly 30,000 miles on the front brakes and 60,000 miles on the rear brakes. At that interval, it tells me that usually every 5 visits, they're going to need brakes, right? And you can start kind of seeing how this will go. Electric parking brakes, we're seeing that a lot of them are only lasting 30,000 miles instead of 50 to 60. But you'll notice in your area, most of the vehicles are going to do roughly the same because everybody's driving on the same roads and the same traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So start noticing these things, right? Let's say you have a 90,000 mile tire or a 60,000 mile tire, whatever the case may be that you sell, you can kind of start to figure out when it's going to need to be due. Hey, Mrs. So-and-so, your brakes are 50%. So in about 2 visits, maybe 3, you're probably going to need brakes, but we'll check them next visit just to make you safe, right? This really shows them that you know what you're doing. You're looking out for their best interest, and you're bringing up the inspection every single time to go over it, okay? Now, I consulted at a shop where they had 30 plus tow-ins a month. So what I like to do is go look at the tow-in tickets, figure out what the RO is, figure out what actually fixed the vehicle, figure out what we're missing, right? Once we started testing batteries on every vehicle, we went down to 3 a month, from 32 tow-ins a month to 3, because we were just testing the batteries. Now the customer's not inconvenienced. That's the whole goal of doing this. If they decide that they don't want the battery, that's fine. But if it's low, we're going to recommend it because we don't want you to be inconvenienced with a breakdown or the car doesn't start, right? So we're helping you get to the next step with your vehicle, okay? So talking about making the sale and setting up for the sale. So 5 steps I'm going to kind of go over to really help you kind of dial this in. So first, you need to focus on explaining what's going to happen next and emphasizing what the inspection is and if there's additional inspection for that. So if you're doing an oil change and a brake noise, that's 2 different inspections, because on the oil service, you're going to have the multi-point inspection, right? But on the brake service, we're going to have a brake inspection, which we'll talk about in 1 second. Then we're going to go over the inspections or the tests or both with the customer. Then we're going to go over the solutions to fix that issue. Then we're going to learn rebuttal stoppers, which I'll talk about here in a minute, and then answer questions to help them make a smart decision, which we're going to talk about in a second. So let's start with the first step, right? Customer comes in. Mrs. Johnson, I wanted to go over real quick with you what we're going to do today. We're going to do our 33-point inspection. We don't check everything, but we're going to check all the common stuff that might leave you on a breakdown between now and your next visit. One of those things is going to be your brakes. We can see it right here on the inspection. So what we're going to do is one of our techs, this is Bono over here. Bono is going to take your car on a test drive to confirm the noise, because we don't want to sell you something without confirming that's what the problem actually is. Then we're going to put up an air and we're going to do a lift inspection, right? If you're charging for an inspection like this, this is the best way to sell it, because no one is going to give you money for a brake check if you just tell them, oh, I'm going to check it real quick. You have to explain them why. And then if they give you a hard time, ask them, hey, look, I have to pay my mechanic to do this. Would you do a good job if you didn't get paid? And a lot of them will agree with you, right? They understand they've got to pay for the time to look over something properly and get a proper inspection, okay? So next, go over the inspection with the customer. So the first thing you want to do is confirm with them that they have a minute to go over their car. Hi, this is Peyton with Apple Auto. Do you have a minute to go over your vehicle? If they say a second, they're going to rush you and they got to run into a meeting, right? Hold your ground and if they say they're busy, hey, look, can you give me a call back when you get a minute? Because I want to go over this and have time to talk about it, right? If not, you'll let them rush you and then you can never get a chance to really get them to understand what's going on with their vehicle, right? They can never say yes to you if you don't get the opportunity to explain what you're talking about. So get the yes, get them to take you serious. If not, have them call you back, okay? Then the technician did your oil service, performed a brake inspection, and did a 6-month health check, right? We're telling them what we just did. We spent their money. This is what we did to get to the next step. The issue is a worn out brake pad, okay? It should be at, 100%, it's at 11. This is your failure rate or whatever you want to use, okay? The thing here is we haven't talked about price yet. We're just going over the inspection. And if you don't talk about what they came in for first, it's going to be in their head the whole time, and they're not going to listen to you until you tell them what that is. Even if it's a chipped mirror, bring it up first, okay? A lot of times they'll interrupt you and go, oh, how much is that? Say, hold on, let me just go over the whole inspection real quick, and then we can go over the whole thing. Okay, no problem, right? So go over some good. Your tires are at 60%. We checked your filters. If they did them last time, tell them, hey, we checked them. They're clean. You're doing a good job of taking care of your car. We checked your lights. All of them are good. We topped off your pressures. We topped off your washer fluid, et cetera, right? We tell them what we've done already, right? And we're also not telling them the car's a piece of crap. We're telling them there are good things about it. It's not worth getting rid of. Then you're going to go over your recommendations. If you're really struggling selling, this is usually the step that people don't do, and they rush into the sale, and then people get overwhelmed and they don't know what to do and they freak out and they panic, okay? You've got to get them to slow down a little bit because this is a serious conversation. This can be a $3,000, $4,000, $10,000 conversation. This isn't a quick, hey, I'm just reminding you about your appointment. No, this is business time. This is time to talk, okay? So then I like to talk about the tests first. We check your coolant. It's a little acidic. We recommend flushing the coolant, right? And we can do some more training on how to say this stuff better, but I just want to get through some basics. Next, we recommend doing a fuel service by mileage. If you're not pulling to check if there's carbon buildup, you can recommend it by mileage to get your gas mileage back to where it used to be. This is a common one because people don't do tune-ups every year anymore, but you've got to do some kind of fuel service or your gas mileage is going to go down. So this is a great one to recommend because they're going to see an increase in the way the car runs. 2 things are going to go through their head immediately. First off, how long, right? How long is this going to take for me to get done? If I say yes to it today, I need my car back. That's always their biggest concern is convenience. If you told me, so we're going to talk about adding to your close here in a second, and it's things that you say before you give the price that help you get to the next step without a million little questions along the way. So if you told me to do it all, it would be done by Friday, and the total would be $1,675.97. Now, this is the most important thing that you do. You'll hear a lot of trainers say, shut up, right? I think better than shut up, it's time to listen, okay? A lot of us, all of a sudden, start lowering the price. Oh, well, if you want to do it all day, I can get it $100 knocked off, right? You need to stop here and listen to the problem that they tell you, okay? 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with price. It has something to do with, I need the car this week and I don't have a car now, right? They're going to ask you to help them in the rebuttal. And a lot of us overshoot this and just start dropping prices. It's not at this point. They're not telling you they don't trust what you're trying to sell them. They're not telling you any of that. They are getting hit with a big unexpected expense. And here's the thing, folks. When's the last time you pulled your debit card out at a place and spent $3,000 or $4,000? It doesn't happen because everything's automated now. I don't even pay my mortgage anymore. It just happens, right? So when we have to do this, they're going, oh my God, I don't know. I got to figure this out. I got to talk to my husband. I don't know what I'm going to do, right? And we're like, man, just buy it. Like it doesn't work that way. They need a minute. So listen, and it'll tell you what is coming next. Oh, well, I don't, that's a lot of money, right? Or I don't have a car, or how long is this going to take, right? At that point, you've kind of already gotten a yes from them because they didn't tell you no. The best thing you can do is to not screw it up at this point, okay? And recommend options or educate. Now, if you all of a sudden just say, oh, you don't need all that stuff, are they ever going to trust you? This is why Indian people are famous for challenging people on prices. I had a friend of mine that was laughing about it one day, and he goes, yeah, we grew up, whenever someone gives us a price, we go, oh, no, 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 that's too much. And you look at their response, because if they back down, you know they're full of crap, right? They're looking for you to stop and say, hey, look, I understand it's a lot of money, but let me explain to you why and why it's a smart move. Whether you do it, it's up to you or not. But if you don't stand your ground, right? Let's say you go to the doctor and they tell you that you have cancer. And then you're like, oh, well, is it really that big of a deal, doc? And the doc goes, yeah, whatever. Just get some kombucha. You'll be fine, right? You would never trust that doc or his cancer recommendation ever again, right? You've got to stand your ground a little bit, which we're going to talk about here in a second, okay? Now, when we talk about building your close, what I'm talking about is after you get all these little prices out or the total price, what you say to close the conversation. The more things that you can include in there, the less questions you're going to get, okay? Here's an example. Let's say everybody always asks you what your warranty is after the repair. Start including it in your close, and then you won't get that question anymore, okay? You don't need to include all of these, but the questions that are always going to be in their head is, how long is it going to take? Is it worth it? What is the price out the door? Is this the real price, or is this, an estimate, right? What's the warranty? Another one, financing options. If you know it's a customer that's broke and they need you to help them, recommend, and just let you know, Mr. Johnson, we do have financing options that should be a good option for you, right? I wouldn't assume it on a person you don't know, obviously, but so at the end of your sentence, right? Today we are going to do the brakes, the tires, yada, yada, yada. It's going to be $3,000. If you told me to get started, we should be able to have all the work done on Friday, and your total out the door with everything would be $1,987.43. What I'm doing in this statement is I'm pre-answering these questions so that they don't have any questions. When you get really good at this, they stop and they're quiet because they're processing, right? But again, don't jump on that and be like, oh, let me start giving you a discount, because that's not a good idea, okay? So some of the questions that you're going to get, and let me kind of walk you through how to deal with them. So, oh, wow, Peyton, that's a lot of money. What they're really saying to you is, explain to me that I'm making a smart decision. Explain to me what's really going on. So when I walk through my sales pitch, I don't give these super long explanations in the beginning. I go short and quick, get through it, get the price out, and then they will ask you what they need help understanding, right? I can't do it all right now. They're not telling you that what you just told them isn't important. They're not saying, I don't believe in buying this, Peyton. What they're saying is, help me prioritize. Well, look, the most important things that we get done are X, Y, and Z. Can you get this done now and this in a month, right? Or I've even had customers that said, you know what? I trust you guys. I'm going to park the car for a month, put some money in the bank, and then I'll come back and get it done, right? That is an option for them, and it's a good option for a lot of people. I can't afford this right now. Well, we have financing. I was a big believer in Snap. We had a lot of people on Snap, and I always was ashamed of asking people about financing because I thought it was a bad thing. But I'll tell you that, like, between moving and everything else right now, if something came up, I would end up putting it on a credit card. And I'm going to pay a lot more money on that credit card than I am on Snap financing. So this is a really good option for a lot of people. And sometimes it's just, you make the recommendation, they take it or they don't, but at least you tried. There was a lot of people that used us because they could use their Snap financing, and we actually got some customers out of it. So just don't forget that it's not embarrassing. You're giving them an option to help solve a problem. Okay. Is this hunk of junk worth keeping? Hear this all the time. Okay. You're going to hear this a lot more if you don't go over any good on the vehicle. And look, there's some cars out there that are ready to be retired, okay? And I'm not saying tell them to keep it on every car. Some of them need to get rid of it. Or, hey, look, man, do the brakes and drive it in and trade it in and get something else because this thing's a hunk, right? But if it is worth keeping, what they're really saying is, help me make a smart decision. Is this a smart decision for me to make, right? Walk them through it as if it was your mom or your brother or a friend. That's what they really want, is just someone who's going to give them honest advice and not try to take advantage of them. I need to use my car tomorrow. You're going to hear this a lot. They need convenience. Maybe it's a loaner car. Maybe it's a Lyft ride, right? Shops that have loaner cars have much higher average repair orders because this is a great selling tool, and the customer doesn't want to have to come back. Once you're at $1,500, $3,000's on the table, because they would rather get it all done now, which I would do with my car too, than having to come back in 3 months and doing the rest then. Some people can't afford to do that, and that's an option too. But remember, it's usually not about the price. It's about making it convenient and easy for them to say yes, okay? You're gonna hear this one a lot. What can I hold off on? Okay. Now, again, if you all of a sudden start backpedaling and telling them they only need half of the stuff, they're going to do that with you every single time, and they're never going to trust you. So we're going to talk about this here in a minute. What they're really saying is, help me prioritize. Is this the right money to spend right now? Do I need to do all of it? What is the smart thing? Okay. I have an aftermarket warranty. Oh, this is a fun one. We can dive more into this later if you all would like to. My advice would be, some shops charge for this because it can be a pain in the butt, which I think always ends up becoming kind of a nightmare. So what I would do is figure out which ones you want to work with. If you need guidance on those, let me know. I can help you on that. But pick the ones that you want to work with and then learn how to make money on those, which again, if you want help on that, let me know. And then lastly, it was just at another shop and they said everything was fine, right? This happens at the dealership. This happens at independents. It happens everywhere. The way you win this is you are strong and confident, and you show them the inspection and you show them things, right? They're really saying, look, now I'm really confused. I don't know what to do because he said it's fine. You're telling me it's not. Hey, look, why don't you stop by and let me show you everything on the vehicle that I'm seeing, and really win them over by showing them what's wrong with their vehicle, okay? Now, quick example. Let's say that a car came in and we did an oil change for $110.97, brakes, we did the oil change, but it needs brakes and a brake fluid service, a tie rod end and an alignment, a coolant service, and a cabin air filter, okay? This can get a little bit mixed up what I'm talking about because some of you are doing it on paper, some are on Mitchell, some are on high-end softwares like Techmetric that do it all for you. So just bear with me. If you have questions about this, let me know. I'm a big believer in adding a buffer, and the buffer can be real. You can put it on the ticket as a buffer $50, so it adds it up for you. When a customer asks, I will tell them, like, I put $50 buffer in there. Your real total is actually $15, $27, $39. But this way, in case I need a part or something changes, I don't have to call you, right? So the real total, the total we're trying to sell is $15, $77, $39. And when they say yes to that and they show up and it's cheaper than what they expected, they're going to be very happy. Okay, very happy. So what you want to do is you're going to run through your services the first time. Hi, this is Peyton with Apple Auto. Do you have a minute to go over your car? Yes. Well, we did your oil change and we did your courtesy inspection, and the tech did the brake inspection that we talked about. We found out that you need front brake pads. Everything else in the car looks pretty solid. The lights are good. The tires are good. You've been taking care of the air filters. Those look great. But a couple items we did notice is obviously we're going to replace the front brakes, pads, rotors, and do a brake fluid service to do the complete service. Tie rod end and alignment, because the tie rod end has some movement in it and is a safety component. It's not something I would wait on. We measured your coolant. It's acidic, which means it's going to start eating gaskets, and we don't want that. So we'd recommend replacing that. And lastly, we checked your cabin air filter. It's pretty dirty. I looked at your records. I haven't seen it done in a while, so we're recommending that. If you told me to go ahead and do everything today, your total would be $15, $77, $39, and we could have it done by Friday. Now shut up. They are overwhelmed. They are processing, right? You've got to give them a minute. Don't jump in, okay? Now, if they say, well, do I need it all? And you go, now you see the brakes. It's going to be this much, buy. They're never going to trust you on recommendations. So if they ask you anything, you need to go for the big pot the second time and re-explain, okay? So, we do need to do the front pads and the rotors and service a brake fluid. That's what's going to get your brakes another 30,000 miles. If we were to try to do less than that, it wouldn't last as long, or they'd make noise. We're going to do the tie rod end because it has movement in it, and we need to align it afterwards to straighten the steering wheel. That's a safety issue. It's something that I wouldn't hold off on because it could break while you're driving. Lastly, or the coolant service that we talked about. Again, when coolant goes bad, it turns acidic. Acid eats stuff, right? So that's what we're recommending. Is that's how we know that coolant is bad. It's time to be replaced. We pulled your cabin air filter. It's part of the ventilation system, the air you breathe in the car. It is pretty nasty. I understand if you want to hold off, but it is something that I would recommend doing because it's not going to make it to your next visit performing the way that it should be. right? So you've got to explain it twice to really be able to hold your ground, okay? And then on the third try, don't trip. And when I say trip, this is what I'm talking about. A lot of people have been trained to break it up into what the car came in for, safety, maintenance, and then other, okay? And the second that that guy on the phone says, well, Peyton, you know, what can I hold off on? They just chop everything on the maintenance side and say, just do the safety and the oil change. We'll get you out of here for 1235.71, right? They don't understand what you mean when you say hold off, right? They don't, does it mean that it could cause more damage? Could it not? If you just jump like that, that's what's going to happen. So what happens again? People just drop the non safety items, or even maybe just doing the brakes and saying the tie rod in. I hope you're not saying that, but someone probably does. But you must explain its importance as you remove it. And what I mean by that is, you know, hey, look, Fred, I understand that money's real tight right now. The cabin air filter is important. And the reason we change them is because they'll start to get musty. So look, if you don't do it and it starts to get musty, let me know and we can get you in here sooner than later and change it. But it's something that you still should get done, right? You see what I'm saying? I'm not just telling them no. I'm still making it important. So look, if you decide to hold off on the cabin, which I understand money's tight, you'd be at 14, 16, 95. And I'm working down the list that way one by one. That way they still understand that it's important and they trust what I'm teaching them and selling them, okay? Now, a couple of notes real quick on digital inspections. So a lot of shops have asked me, hey, Peyton, you know, we're selling 80 or 90% on digital and they're not even talking to them on the phone and they're approving it and they're signing it. And everyone just wants to know what the risk really is, okay? So the risk is you losing your edge on great service. If you're already doing that, you have customers that trust you and love you, but what happens is we start to get lazy, okay? So take that time that you were on the phone and go start having some fun, making the best inspections and stuff that you can. So one, become better on the phone. Learn what to tell them so that they know who you are and they believe how your processes work and stuff like that so that your system works better. We're going to get to the point where people can make appointments online without even talking to us. So when they do talk to us, it's going to be super important that we get a chance to show them who we are, why we do it. So when they see it, they're like, you know what? I trust those guys. He's never done me wrong. Let's just go ahead and do it. Okay. Spend time making the inspections better. If you're over 15 pictures per inspection, you're doing a great job. 20 is like really, really, really great. But again, get good pictures and bad pictures, not just bad pictures or bad videos. This way they get used to seeing them and they know what's going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Next, call them if they don't get back to you. I send it to them, I'm just going to sit here and wait, right? A lot of people aren't used to this yet, or they might have a question, right? If it's been 30 minutes, pick up the phone and call them, right? And you need to get your day going anyway. But then at this point, this is where you're going to be a rock star and say, look, why don't you put me on speaker and I'll walk you through it. We can go through the inspection together, right? But again, you're not going to have to do them as often, but when you do, you need to really take the time and walk them through it, okay? Review what was done with the vehicle when it was picked up. So a lot of times, if I know it's quick and simple stuff, I would give it to Janelle to check them out, and I would grab the hard one and take it over to a different computer, say, come over here. You know, I want to walk you through everything real quick. Show them the inspection if you have time, okay? Go over what was done piece by piece, right? Make sure they understand what they spent all this money on. Because if not, all they are is, I clicked an app, I spent $3,000, the car seems to run better, I think. Right? You need to reassure them, answer some questions. The next thing I would make sure you're doing is having some kind of follow-up text. This is how you can get a lot more Google reviews without spending much money. So you want the first one to go out coming from the owner in a very personal way. Hi, this is Peyton with Apple Auto. I just wanted to message you and make sure that everything was great. And they will follow back up, usually in 3 days. If you have questions about this, let me know. But this is a really good way to make sure that an issue didn't happen that you didn't hear about. And now all of a sudden someone's boiling because they're not getting taken care of and they don't know who to call because they did it all digital. You see where I'm going with this, right? We need to increase the personal touch to make sure they don't have any issues. Next, go over any warranties or any other services on with the counter you check it out. So I would always have it on the print off and I would highlight the warranty. If you have free road hazard or road service with your service, I would highlight that too. But again, an opportunity to go over this stuff. I have one shop that texts them the warranty information 3 months after the repair to remind them, Hey, Mrs. Johnson, just want to make sure that everything's good. And just quick reminder, all the repairs that we did are 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. If you have any issues, please let us know, right? Just a quick reassurance. If you need anything, let me know. These are the things that shops do that get amazing customer service awards. And people just buy because you're knocking everything else out of the park, okay? Few things to remember. When you start doing this, make sure you get them to commit to listening to you. This is one of the best things for you and them to both be able to slow down a little bit and have a conversation about it, okay? Go over what has been done. We did an inspection, we pulled the wheels, we checked the brakes, talk to your techs, ask them if you don't know this stuff, especially in the beginning, it's a great way to learn. Hey, tell me what you did. Oh, I did this, here's why, this, you start learning it, then you can explain it to them. Next, you're going to go over the inspection that you talked to them about when they dropped off the car. You have to make it real. If you don't make it real, they're not ever going to buy into it, okay? And then go over the solution and the price that's associated with fixing that solution. A lot of people are scared to sell the big ticket because they're not doing full inspections. How can you tell someone to spend $3 or $4 grand if you haven't looked over everything on the car? Right? But when you have, you can tell them, hey, Mrs. Johnson, we looked over everything on the vehicle. We don't have a magic crystal ball, obviously, but your brakes are good, your tires are good. You do need a bunch of maintenance and a couple other repairs. They're just wearable items that wore out. The car's not in bad shape. And we see these things go a long distance. So if you plan on keeping it, I think it's a smart decision. Now, I never want you to tell someone that when that's not the case. Right? There's plenty of money to be made out there, being honest with your customers and explaining these items. I hope today was helpful. If you have any questions or there's anything that you'd like to know more about, feel free to reach out to me. Remember that when they are quiet, you need to take time to listen. That's another big one that we screw up, okay? I hope this was helpful, everybody. I really appreciate you coming today, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.